Right now, on To the Point, a bipartisan housing bill now on hold.
None of this makes any sense.
Why President Trump put the historic legislation on ice.
It adds a lot more folly to this government-created mess.
Most state workers are being mandated back into the office next week. Tonight, where political debate and frustration stand. Companies that cut workers for AI are now bringing employees back. What's driving the change in the job market? As America turns 250, people weigh in on what the founding fathers would think today. On President Donald Trump's desk right now is a bipartisan bill to address the nation's affordable housing crisis. But the president is delaying a signature until lawmakers finish unrelated legislation. Good evening. Thanks for joining us on To the Point. I'm Becca Habiger. ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen is here to explain the holdup and what California lawmakers are saying.
Well, Becca, President Trump says he wants Congress to first pass the Save America Act before he signs the housing bill known as the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. Most lawmakers support the housing bill and are confident it will become law. But some lawmakers say this would not bring down the cost of housing and only add to it.
Every election's important. We're doing very well.
That was President Donald Trump's reaction Wednesday after canceling a planned signing of H.R. 6644, the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said the signing is canceled and wants Congress to pass the Save America Act, a bill that's divided lawmakers over voter ID and proof of citizenship requirements.
They want a lot of communists to come in. I'm saying it a little bit differently, but the people that they're pushing are communists, and this country is not going to have communists.
Democratic California Congressman John Garamendi, who authored provisions in the housing bill, says he's confident the president will sign it, helping lower costs and increase housing supply in California.
A tax credit for developers to build low and moderate income housing, so they get a tax break. Another element is for the rehab of existing housing units, update them so that they are not only affordable, but they are livable. You can live in them. There are programs to provide subsidies for low and moderate renters.
Even though the legislation got overwhelming support from Democrats and Republicans, Republican California Congressman Tom McClintock was one of the lawmakers that voted against it.
I mean, this is true of anything in a marketplace. When something is scarce, it's expensive. When it's plentiful, it's cheap. We used to have affordable housing at every income level because we allowed builders to build to that demand.
The bill would limit large investors from buying additional single-family homes. McClintock argues that could drive up costs, while Garamendi says more homes should be available for families to buy. The nonpartisan Turner Center for Housing Innovation says the policy could help level the playing field for buyers.
In communities where you're seeing high investor activity, it could be useful in giving first-time home buyers in particular less competition to buy that home that they'd like.
While the president is holding off for now, House Speaker Mike Johnson hinted that the bill could still be signed soon.
Great policy. The president, when we go through the details of the bill, he's going to understand that it's a good product, and certainly something that fulfills his promises to bring down the cost.
And President Trump has 10 days to sign or veto the bill. Speaker Johnson indicated today that the president will take advantage of that while he wants to focus on the Save America Act. Becca.
Oh, Jeannie, thanks so much. Well, on the state level, California lawmakers are pushing forward a plan to tackle affordable housing for low-income Californians. Lawmakers plan to vote on the proposal tomorrow, and if the governor signs it, the measure will appear on the ballot in November. The plan calls for an $11.2 billion bond. $10 billion of that allow for the construction of more than 40,000 affordable housing units across the state. The bond also has more than $1.2 billion for the CalVet home loan program that helps veterans and military families buy homes. We'll have full coverage on this and other ballot measures tomorrow on To the Point. A federal judge today permanently barred President Trump from implementing his first executive order on elections. The order would have required people to show proof of citizenship to register to vote. It would also have prevented mail ballots from counting if they were received after Election Day. Today's ruling makes permanent a preliminary order the judge issued a year ago. The judge sided with 19 Democratic attorneys general, including California's AG Rob Bonta, who argued the Constitution gives states and Congress, not the president, the authority to regulate federal elections. And we're just 1 week away from the start of Governor Newsom's return to office mandate. It could affects some 100,000 state employees starting July 1st. Most state workers must work in person at the office at least 4 days a week. ABC 10 political reporter Jenny Ha has been closely covering that debate and has the latest.
What's going to be chaotic is the uncertainty of how people respond to it.
The clock is ticking. Governor Newsom's return to office mandate, which requires nearly all state employees to work in person at the office at least 4 days a week, takes effect next Wednesday.
We don't need to be in office for 4 days a week or the whole week to work collaboratively. The running joke, you're going to be going into the office to telework versus just being at home. So
Forrest Hansen, a state scientist with the Department of Water Resources, says the current hybrid format of in-person 3 days a week or so works. Hansen says he, like many others, was hired fully remote with no heads up they would move to in-person. With the RTO mandate, Hansen says workers will have to pay for lunch, parking, and gas.
but the idea that state workers are responsible to provide profits to downtown business owners in this modern age of telework is just kind of crazy.
That's been Newsom's main point: revitalize downtown.
We got to get these downtowns moving again. Got a sense of community and place.
And in-person interactions.
Be nice to see you again. Nice to see you again. Nice to run into you in the hall.
Yet the pushback from state workers and their unions continues.
It doesn't look good, so the administration is holding firm on the mandate.
SEIU Local 1000 is the largest union of California state workers. President Anika Walls warns of something like a mass exodus and that rather than a one-size-fits-all mandate, telework should be a case-by-case discussion by each department.
There's a lot of baby boomers that are at the tail end of their careers, right? And so I think the term for it is even the silver tsunami.
Do you feel like this telework debate affects Governor Newsom's relationship with labor unions like yourself?
I absolutely think that actions, right, speak louder than words.
2 words, lame duck. There's no more risk for him in terms of challenging the unions and facing lawsuits.
Newsom only has 6 months left in office once the mandate starts.
He's basically dumping it into Javier Becerra's lap or Steve Hilton's.
Meantime, workers say departments are scrambling to find space, equipment, and finalize schedules.
It's incredibly frustrating. I think everyone's super frustrated at it.
I'm going to be curious to see how many actually do go back.
Jenny Ha, ABC 10.
The state tells us compliance with the order, meaning in person at least 4 days a week, is required, and that non-compliance will be addressed. And depending on the department, employees may be able to choose which weekday they work from home. Well, a magnitude 5.6 earthquake jolted people awake across Northern California this morning, or the sound coming from your phone if you had the MyShake app. That quake was centered in the Mendocino County area. The city of Willits was impacted and some injuries were reported. There were some scary moments for the staff at Mariposa Market in Willits. Inventory came crashing down when the quake hit. Now, thankfully, the store was closed at the time and no one was hurt there. Staff spent the morning cleaning up the mess. And for some longtime California residents in that area, so they described this as one of the more terrifying quakes they've experienced.
I had glass flying everywhere, so that's why I was trying to get outside of the house because it felt like I was being attacked by my furniture.
The earthquake was felt as far away as Modesto and the Bay Area. There were also a number of power outages. Many businesses are working to reopen as cleanup continues. And tracking more earthquakes tonight, a magnitude 6.9 quake struck off the northern coast of Japan. The quake happened in an area where strong earthquakes have been reported in recent months. And Venezuela was just hit with back-to-back powerful earthquakes. This is new video tonight after a 7.2 quake hit along the country's Caribbean coast. The USGS says it was a foreshock of the second, more powerful 7.5 quake. Buildings have partially collapsed in the capital of Caracas, and flights in the area are suspended. Today was a holiday in Venezuela, and many people were at home. We'll have more on the impact to Venezuelans here in Sacramento coming up on Late News Tonight at 11. Still ahead on To The Point, the historic heat wave in Europe turns deadly as people look for relief. And a nationwide showcase on the National Mall is now underway. The festivities celebrating America's 250th birthday.
And I'll talk more about that heat wave in Europe, but thankfully we are not worried about heat here at home. In fact, temperatures trending down heading into the weekend. I've got a full look at our forecast after the break.
But first, in other headlines tonight, closing arguments continue in Sacramento's deadly K Street shooting trial. More than 100 shots were fired and 6 people died. Jurors heard from the defense for Medhula Payton and DeAndre Martin today. They both face murder charges. Prosecutors are planning a rebuttal tomorrow before the jury gets the case. Camp Mystic in Texas has filed for bankruptcy. 28 people died at the summer camp during catastrophic flooding last summer. 25 of those victims were young girls. Camp Mystic's operators said the property may pose a threat to safety and needs to be protected from weather events. The filing notes camp debts exceed $10 million. Today marks 4 years since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. The Dobbs decision is why abortion is no longer a federal right. The 5-4 ruling leaves such laws up to states. A major heat wave has people sweltering across Europe. France had the hottest day on record in the country and forced the closure of the Eiffel Tower. At least 42 people have drowned in France as thousands head to the water to cool off. In the UK, hundreds of schools are either closed or moving to half days. According to the World Meteorological Organization, Europe is warming faster than anywhere else as temperatures are rising twice as fast as the global average. Now, ABC 10 meteorologist Brendan Minchef joins us now. And Brendan, I mean, this is especially dangerous, sort of like San Francisco. A lot of folks don't have air conditioning. They're not used to these high temperatures.
Yeah, well, I think there's a reason we call California a Mediterranean climate, right? This is the Mediterranean. This is what you typically see. You don't need air conditioning all the time. It usually doesn't get that hot. French officials saying we need to reckon with now being a hot country. Look at the high temperatures observed across Europe today, especially across Western Europe. 104 in Paris, 102 down in Madrid. London was 96 degrees this afternoon, and Rome 95. Even down along the Croatian coast, temperatures were in the upper 80s and low 90s. This is heat that is very, very abnormal, very unusual for Europe. Now, take a look at the climate shift index here across Europe. This tells us how much of an impact climate change is having on these temperatures. This is specifically for the high temperatures. Level 5 across parts of the Italian coast and again down the Croatian coast. Level 5 across Spain and France. Level 4 across northern France. We'll zoom in a little bit here, you get a better idea. Again, level 5 out of 5. That means climate change making these temperatures in Europe at least 5 times more likely. This heat is an exceptional event driven by climate change. Here in California, another Mediterranean climate. Thankfully, we are not talking about heat. In fact, things are going the other direction for us. We're trending down. 87 was the high this afternoon here at home, 91 in Stockton, 92 Modesto, some upper 70s in the high country. Right now, we're in the low 80s to low 90s. We've got a nice delta breeze. It's taken a little longer for Stockton and Modesto to cool down, but we've had a breeze for longer across Sacramento, which is why we're already in those low 80s. Thursday morning starts off in those mid 50s, so a cool start to the day and warm and sunny again tomorrow. But again, temperatures continue to trend down. We'll be in the upper 80s and low 90s once again tomorrow as high pressure moves out. Incoming low pressure over the weekend, though, going to bring us much below normal temperatures, and it is going to be downright chilly up near Tahoe. Look at some of these morning temperatures. Saturday morning, 39 for South Lake Tahoe, 32 on Sunday morning. And once you go up in elevation, we could be looking at 20s to start Saturday and Sunday morning near Tahoe. So definitely bring the warmer clothes if you're headed to the high country this weekend. Here in the valley, we'll be in the low 80s. Not bad for the end of June. Becca?
Not bad at all. Thanks, Brendan. Well, still ahead, a new California bill could force insurance companies to give homeowners more warning and a clear explanation before coverage is dropped. And a new legal battle over gas prices. California drivers claim AI software is to blame for high prices at the pump. Now to California's insurance crisis. A bill that aims to enhance consumer protections could soon move forward. We've been reporting on the insurance crisis for years now, including frustrations of people dropped by their insurer. Now, a bill that would require more transparency for consumers is up for a vote. If passed, Senate Bill 1310 would require insurance companies to give homeowners at least 3 months' notice before non-renewal and explain exactly why coverage is being dropped, including the actions needed to keep your coverage. Here's the bill's author, State Senator Ben Allen, who is also running to be California's next insurance commissioner.
This is all about giving people some more time and a real opportunity to mitigate or go find other coverage.
The bill is now in its final phases. If it passes, it heads to the Appropriations Committee in the Assembly. The bill is co-sponsored by Consumer Watchdog and the Every Fire Survivors Network in response to concerns expressed by LA fire survivors and consumers across the state that they will not be able to keep their home insurance. Celebrations for America's 250th birthday are officially underway. Today, Freedom 250, created by the White House, kicked off its Great American State Fair. The National Mall has transformed into a national fairground in a White House-led partnership that commemorates 250 years of America's independence. President Trump headed the day's event after at least 4 musical acts pulled out of a concert series. Congressional leadership today also buried the first of several time capsules set to mark the occasion. This one meant for future members of Congress to open 250 years from now.
When this capsule is finally opened, those Americans will be as distant from us as we are today from the men who signed their names on our Declaration.
Unlike America 250, which was created by bipartisan members of Congress a decade ago, the Great American State Fair is organized by Freedom 250, a public-private group launched by the president. The Great American State Fair runs until July 10th. It is free to attend. Now, most Americans say they feel proud about the country's 250th anniversary. That's according to a new survey. Roughly 3 in 10 say they are excited. The poll shows 43% of U.S. adults are extremely or very proud about the nation's milestone anniversary. Breaking those numbers down by political party, 23% of Democrats say they're extremely proud compared to 69% of Republicans. Older Americans ages 60 and older are also mostly feeling proud, with 6 in 10 saying that's how they feel about the nation's anniversary. Other polling shows that most Americans now feel the signers of the Declaration of Independence would be disappointed with how the U.S. has turned out. That's a substantial increase from 25 years ago. Looking for a job can feel like a full-time job on itself, but there is some good news for the hiring front. Reporter Jennifer Sullivan looks at employment trends and how applicants can stand out.
On paper, the job market looks promising and unemployment rate is low. So why are so many people struggling to get hired right now? In May, job gains came in leisure and hospitality, healthcare, and local government. But if you're not looking for opportunities in those industries, it can be tough to land a new position. But there is good news.
We've started to see that hiring activity pick up across the board.
Dawn Fay with recruiting firm Robert Half says they recently conducted a survey among U.S. hiring managers and found 32% of those who eliminated positions after implementing AI are now rehiring for those roles or similar ones.
They're actually bringing employees back into the organization to basically be able to handle the workload that they thought AI was going to be able to replace.
Fay says instead, companies are now relying on AI to take on more routine tasks.
The communication, the judgment, the oversight, the institutional knowledge that employees have, that the technology up to this point is just not being able to kind of replace all of that.
If you're looking for a new job, Fay recommends writing a cover letter that highlights your accomplishments and explains why you want to work there. Don't just apply online. Track down a hiring manager and reach out to them directly.
I know it can take some time and be a little frustrating. Stay with it and don't feel like you've got to wait 2 or 3 months till the summer ends.
If you do land an interview, Fay suggests asking what their timeline is to hire for the position and what the next steps are in the interview process.
A new lawsuit claims gas stations are using artificial intelligence to charge higher prices. California drivers are suing major gas stations chains like BP and 7-Eleven, alleging companies used AI-powered software called Calibrate to inflate costs. The companies deny wrongdoing, but the case is testing whether algorithms are making everyday essentials more expensive for consumers. World Cup fever is taking over the capital city. Coming up, a live look at the block party happening right now. Well, happening now, World Cup fans are celebrating all things soccer. Republic FC is taking over downtown Sacramento for a 2-day block party. Now, this is a live look at the celebration at downtown Plaza Park, where fans are watching Mexico take on Czechia. Our they're expecting thousands of fans tonight. Our photojournalist who was out there earlier before they opened the plaza to the public said people were stretched around the plaza twice just to get in. The party continues tomorrow night when Team USA takes on Turkey. Well, thank you so much for watching and inviting us into your home. If you have something you think we should be looking into, please reach out to us. You can email us at tothepoint@abc10.com. And remember, To The Point doesn't end here. To watch stories featured on the show, you can download our free ABC 10 streaming app to your TV. Have a great and safe night. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Jeopardy's next.